king. We'll find out what happens on this map. In the bottom right from Team Empire, it is BeastyQT, one of the top Terrans in the world, and outside of Korea. But man, he played so solid for 16, 17 minutes. His run bys, his timings, his Banshee harass, his upgrades, his expansion. His Sim City was awesome, like on the third base on Cloud Kingdom. It's always very awkward because you don't know how to defend it appropriately without overextending your supply depots. That kind of stuff is very crafty. A lost art amongst most players, but it's really tough because this guy in the top left, Andre, who is this guy?
I don't know.
He plays under the ID Slayer Sella, but it's not Sella.
He's an insane sicko, man. It is, of course, Dark from Team Slayers. This guy, he impresses me more and more as I watch him. I mean, his infestor control. I've switched over to Zerg, and I can't stress enough how hard it is to control your infestors so you don't look like a blundering idiot. I mean, they just love to walk in the line of fire,
man. It's so funny, too, because when infestors die, they look silly when they die, too. They like turn 5 times left and right and like look up in the sky and kind of like, and then they explode within themselves. So it's kind of like, wow, not only did you lose your infestors, but you look dumb while losing your infestors.
So depressing.
It's like, not only did you get dunked on, but like, after the guy like dunked on your face, you like fell into the rafters and like knocked over a box of ice and like skidded across everywhere and caused like 4 other people to trip. It was super embarrassing.
That's an infestor dying.
That's when you lose your pack of infestors in ZVT or ZVP.
Hey, dude, I know. I know. There's way too many times where I double-click the 2 button with, 16 infestors expected to be there, and they're just magically gone in my ladder games.
Yeah. It's like, I'm pretty sure I bound my infestors to 2. It's like, wait.
I did.
The slow realization that you don't have infestors anymore.
I look down where you guys are seeing the scrolling bar.
Yeah.
That's where my hotkeys normally are. I see nothing is there. Like, I know I had infestors on that group. It's the most depressing thing. Anyway, yeah.
I like this build from Beasty.
Really, of course. Command Center first. Really impressive play coming out from Dark so far. I mean, again, watch his infestor control, learn from it, try to copy it as much as possible. We're going to be actually watching him and seeing if he actually utilizes them and how he does that this game. One thing, if I want to be critical on BeastyQT, which is very hard to be, is that he didn't make enough factories. And this is something I see a lot of times with meching Terrans. I think it's so important to be able to be very, very versatile in your unit composition in the mid-game stages. And what I mean by that is sometimes you need the correct count of Hellions, sometimes you need the correct count of Siege Tanks and Thors. That last game, what would have been better is all of the factories just producing Hellions. Now, what BeastyQT did last game was he made Thors, Siege Tanks, Hellions, he went for the push, and then he backed up. He died, of course, but he backed up to another round of Siege Tanks and Thors. What if all of those factories were actually producing Hellions? And what if he had enough factories to max out his production capabilities to the point where his income matched his spend? I think that would be a situation where he just has enough units to deal with that type of push, and we wouldn't have had something like we had last game. I really feel like Terrans need to start being a little bit more mobile with their unit compositions. Frodan, thoughts?
Well, that's kind of why Bio became popular in the first place, just the mobility, the tempo. That's why when Marine King was playing live in GSL quarterfinals, he brought back Bio, and he won that game on Cloud Kingdom. And I feel like that's a great representation of what you can do. Mech is still great, but in certain scenarios, Mech isn't the answer to everything.
Yeah.
But Mech is still really strong when played very well. In fact, not just MVP is picking up, but Flash plays Mech very well as well. Look at this, though. The Marine's getting surrounded immediately because Beasty was not used to such a quick speed. But that should kind of alert Beasty of several things. Like, first of all, I see he's not taking a quick third base by 7 minutes. Second of all, I see speed done and a lot of Zerglings. So Beasty already senses something that's coming up. He's putting up 3 bunkers.
This might not bode well, but...
no, he's fine. Right? Yeah, he's fine. He's good.
Stages, yeah.
But the Baneling Nest, Andre. Oh, Andre.
Yeah, he's had this up for a little bit now, but I don't think he's actually going to implement Frodan. I think he's a little bit too scared about all those bunkers being up here.
Okay.
So BeastyQT is going to push out on the map. I think pushing out the map would be a very, very wrong choice at this point. I mean, Zerg can be doing so many different types of all-ins as we were talking about. Zergling Baneling is one of them. And guess what? Zergling Baneling would easily counter something like a Marine pressure over to the third base, for sure.
Marines with no tech whatsoever, because Beastie's kind of, you know, he's pooling all of his gas right now. He just started his gas, in fact. So he's not going to be able to really harvest it. He might force a cancel on the third, but really at what cost? You're losing so many Marines. Nice micro here thus far, though, to really maximize this Marine surface area. And that's what you need to do thus far.
And now he's going to pick off 2 queens. Very nicely done by BeastyQT. I didn't think he would be able to do that.
Very nice.
But just edging out ever so slowly. So that's a prime example of how micro can get you into a position where you never would have thought possible. But additional Zerglings should be able to clean this up. I don't think this will be a big problem. So not going to force the cancel, but definitely killing 2 queens is very, very helpful for Frodan. It's going to limit the creep spread quite substantially. Even though 5 creep tumors are already out, it still helps out quite a bit.
And now, now Beastie's also got his third command center, double eBay, playing pretty textbook greedy Bio Terran. Beastie actually is very good at Bio. Loves poking at separate bases while dropping, and his multitasking is actually very good in terms of being able to do precise control. Now, one thing I do like is that the emphasis on low tech initially, because some players, when they go for Bio, try to rush up to Starport as well as double engineering bay, and they don't have raw amount of units, especially if they deal with like a mass mutilating Bane and then just come swarming in everywhere. You need to have at least a good number of Marauders. You need to be able to have space to split, but you need to have units, most importantly. A lot of people forget that because they value medevacs a little bit too much in terms of dropping and controlling the map.
And honestly, we're in a world right now where the metagame doesn't really feature too many empowering medevac drops. I mean, they feel really, really easy to defend now. It's like, what, you have 8 or 16 Marines being dropped somewhere where you're in enemy lines. So it's very easy to have Zerglings right around the corner or Queens right around the corner to intercept everything, force you to pick up, and then possibly be even fungled to death. That's the worst situation. So definitely, you know, a larger emphasis on getting more units out, whether it's Hellions and Banshees, whether it's Marines and Hellions, or Marines and Marauders in this situation. That's what you want to focus on, Frodan. You're absolutely right. And that's why we see BeastyQT still being a little bit defensive, because there are some all-ins that still kill him, namely the Zergling Baneling all-in, off of 2-2 actually. But we should start to see some incorporation of siege tanks, I do think. But still no tech labs on the factory.
Just staying with Bio. Yeah, actually he's going 3 Marauder. Triple Marauder is actually a significant amount of gas. You may not think so because of the cost, but the how fast Marauders make, it does take up some of your gas. So at that point, I guess Beastie's really just going to commit to this, and I guess he's only going to stay on 1 starport as well while he goes for just really quick upgrades. He's very much squeezing as much. But look at this, like in terms of supply, like raw ability to pump out units, this is like the big advantage of Bio, because then you take away the tempo ability of your opponent, because if you can use things like Bio to drop while controlling creep and denying bases, you're in an awesome spot, Andre.
That's right. But you know what? You can't go Bio for too long, Frodan. I had a game against Stefano actually where I ZVT'd him, and he was going Bio the whole game. And even a player like Stefano will lose out against, you know, just straight up Infestors and Zerglings and Banelings, and it's because Bio technically isn't the best thing to go. I mean, it's very easily countered to any sort of AoE, and we already have Baneling, Zerglings, and Infestors out. Frodan, I don't think this is going to bode well for BeastyQT, but we're going to see right now.
He needs to split and dodge the Banelings. There's no really Infestors to lock it down. Good splits from Beastie thus far, but doesn't have enough units really to deal with all of the Zerglings. He is going to have to pick up, or at least I guess he's just going to let him stay a little bit while longer. Now, you might think that Beastie lost too much there, but that's okay because Bio is still pretty cheap in terms of comparison. And the big thing is that when you go for Bio and squeeze out upgrades like as aggressively as Beastie is, that gap that usually exists with Zerglings having 2-2 compared to 1-1 is significantly weakened. Has to not get fungled though. That's a big thing. If you can dodge fungals, then all of a sudden Infestors become sitting supply, and you'll be in a nice position because Medevac can out-heal them, especially with tanky Marauders.
That's right. I mean, if you can get your Medevac count up and the Infestor count down, you're in a really good position, but that is what's the problem, Frodan. It's so hard to actually do that consistently.
Yeah, just one mistake, man.
Exactly, and all your units are absolutely dead. And what the problem is at this point is the first attack, even though a lot was traded out, the Infestor count, that's what has been growing this whole time. And once you get a large Infestor count, it actually doesn't matter how many Medevacs you have out in the field because your army is literally locked in place. I don't even need to send my Zerglings in. They can just sit there until all your Medevacs die. That's 4 fungal growths. It's really, really effective. And I'm actually a little bit scared for Beastie because he still hasn't switched over.
Very nice scan by Beastie to catch not just the position of his opponent's army, but also to catch a burrowed Infestor. You're right, though, Andre. I mean, one mistake can cost him everything.
Oh,
He's going to go up the ramp. Marauders are in front. That's what he wants. But does he have enough units? Where are the rest of his bio? He's trying to stem to get into the middle of the fray. But the infested Terrans are holding it down, and the Medevacs are actually in jeopardy of dying as well. He wants to preserve his Medevac count, although Beastie does have a surplus of gas. So that's not too costly. It's just that Medevacs have a lot of energy. You don't want to lose them.
That's
nice
right.
targeting.
And you want that count up there so that you can actually do multi-pronged harassment. Because right now, BeastyQT is pretty relegated to just doing these single file attacks, attacking into this 4th base. He doesn't have the ability, doesn't even have the units to actually split up and go everywhere. So very difficult position for BeastyQT right now. You can see, oh wow, a couple burrowed Banelings. You know what? Jesus, Dark has been so good about this. No. Just kidding.
I guess you didn't notice that then.
Just kidding, SCBs.
That's really funny. And like Beastie scans and takes out a Zergling that's burrowed. I gotta admit though, there's times where like even I do stuff like this, like with Widow Mines and Heart of the Swarm, and I always forget about it. You know, and you have to always be on top of it. Dark may realize it now. Yes, he knows. Oh! Beastie somehow splits just in the nick of time. Those Marines could have died. Oh, but the Vestors are now coming into battle. Doesn't even really need to do anything. GG gets called out. And Dark takes a 2-0 victory over his opponent. Oh, man.
Yeah, Beastie.
Wow. 2 different styles. Same outcome, man. Infestors, and you know what? I want to say that Beastie is really good with both styles too, and he's actually practiced both extensively in TVZ. It's just that it's when Dark plays that solid with like Zerglings everywhere, Banelings here, spreading creep, having Infestors in the right position. Like it's very easy for any Zerg to kind of crumble in that situation. But man, he's able to make out just enough units, even though there's times it seemed like he's in trouble.
Yeah, and what's so beautiful about it is we saw 2 very different applications to how Infestors are used by Dark. I mean, the first game we had a couple of fungals, but mainly Infested Terran. This game was a lot of fungals and just a couple of Infested Terran. And that's something really cool. You can see how effectively he's able to keep his Infestors alive and how he's able to keep them back, but still very, very much in the main fight. So really well played by Dark, and I can't wait to see how he shapes up for the rest of the season.
4 games with Dark, 4 games won for Dark. Now Dark has gotten 2 wins in one night. Congratulations, Dark. Thank you so much to Stamps.com. For hassle-free postage from your PC, visit nasl.tv/p/stamps for a special offer. We'll be back right after this with our next match, Gonzi versus Lowly. Guys, it's another Zerg. We've seen him earlier tonight. Hopefully he can make a comeback. He's got a Korean Terran on his hands. Let's find out what happens after a 2-minute break, so don't go anywhere. Crocky says, be right back.